do protests make positive and lasting change? So we generally talk about so many different ways of how do we change the world and things like that. So that's an important question because a lot of people believe that is the way, and I've got sort of mixed opinions on that. When I say mixed, not just like I'm not sure, but um, I'll talk about the details. So my very short answer, as you can hopefully see on the screen, is complaining for a day won't change things. So that doesn't mean no kind of protest, no version of protesting can make a difference. But I would say the popular idea, and sorry about me blowing my nose, and I think I might encourage Wahid to start again. I think
No,
we've
no,
got both a bit of
yeah.
uh, we're being attacked by pollen as the season, seasonal issues. Anyway,
Don't encourage,
um,
encourage it, please. Don't
yeah,
encourage.
sorry, let's not bring it up. We might psychologically just get affected
Yeah,
by it. There we go. I've got him going now.
yeah.
Okay, so so
What's the
we we like doing mass protests, and I say we like it. I'm not just joking about it. This is a psychological thing. So we are social beings. It's a very important part of who we are, and any psychologist will tell you it's like fundamental to our happiness. So we don't think of ourselves as tribal, but we are tribal. Being part of a community is very important. Um, and so that is one of the reasons why we like to protest. We're actually kind of addicted to protesting, even though it causes us many problems. Because when we're protesting, what that generally is, and I say generally, is saying, we are good, and you make a group. So you love being in a group, going to especially since Western societies are very lonely, we like joining a massive group and saying, hey, everybody else that those other people are terrible. So you say Black Lives Matter, for example, and then that means maybe it's the white people who are doing the bad stuff or something. So the black people blaming the white people, for example, even though you know no person is innocent. Everybody's got a problem and are cause of the problem. So anyway, so we're addicted to it. We love blame. We like making our own tribe and blaming another tribe. That's a very old thing, part of our nature. And so we have to get over that. We have to realize, I mean, I'm bringing all this up because we have to realize where our addiction is coming from. And the reason why it's really dangerous is because we actually want unity. We need to build bridges. If we don't do that, if we start blaming everybody else for not listening to us, then we will never win. We're actually going to lose because the powers that are controlling us, they are depending on us as being divided. So we have to be really careful about that. So that's why protests can be really dangerous. And going into him, I'm talking a lot now. I'm just going to try to cover. Maybe I'll try to speed it up and go in less detail than I am right now, so give Wahid a chance. But just to kind of lay out the basic problems. So, uh, cool. So we've got a comment which is protesting is a human right when a human has no right. So this is really important. I want to uh, respond to that because this is one of the fundamental problems that we're suffering from. So when we think in terms of rights instead of responsibilities, which is this is the Achilles heel of Western society and why we are suffering so much. Because Western society worships this idea of individualism. Okay, and you might think, oh, individualism, that's really good. Freedom, that's really good. Actually, freedom by itself doesn't make you happy. Okay, and focusing on rights does not make you happy at all, actually. In fact, it's responsibility and togetherness and doing things for other people that makes us happy. And this is what psychologists tell us. I always talk about very simple experiments. There's loads of experiments to demonstrate that. For example, they did one where they said, if you buy a coffee for yourself or buy a coffee for other people, you find yourself much happier when you're buying coffee for other people. And there's really obvious explanations for that. But basically, it makes a connection. You're welcome. And I'm actually, thank you very much, all here. Hi, Hera? Harry, whatever. Sorry for not pronouncing it properly. Thank you for your participation. I value it. It helps, we need to have people from different opinions, by the way, to engage with each other and see each other both on the same side. Even if we disagree at first, we have to be able to disagree, but have enough humility to hear each other. And I want to say straight away, there could be all sorts of elements. I'm always often corrected by the way I express myself. So maybe there's something not quite right in that, and I need to be humble as well, right? So, but there's just some fundamental principles that I think that makes sense, right? So we need to focus on responsibilities, and I'm going to come back on a little story about that. I think it's a famous story, Enoch's Fables of what they, I forgot what it's called, but anyway, so that's one element, this kind of tribalism, and that divides us, and we have to be really careful of that. So I'm not against all sorts of protests, but protesting for a day is gonna make you really miserable, because you're gonna come out like, say, the anti-Iraq wars, the biggest anti-Iraq war protest, okay, which is, I mention that because it's our biggest in the UK, the biggest protest we ever had, right? And it was completely ignored. And people start feeling despondent. They'll think, oh, we did this massive protest, 2 million, 1 million people, however you count it, came out, and it didn't make a difference. And the people in control, they know it's just a party, because it's only one day. We never, because we're individualists, we're never strong enough to form a community that can fight back against this very small minority that control us. But we need to be united before we can fight back. When you say fight back, doesn't mean smash up windows. That just destroys society. That destroys our own people, for example, who run the businesses that we're part of that society. It means like getting together to vote for the right person, for example, and not being tricked by divisive politics, like, you know, being against or for, what's it called, being in Europe, Brexit, and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, let me just quickly rush on to the final 2 points, get Wahid involved as well. So real happiness is from doing something meaningful every day. So that's another really important thing, right? So when I said complaining for a day, I mean, like, if you want to protest, do a sort of protest that's practical, like makes something better, and do it daily, not for one day. Okay, because the powers that are in control know that if you just do it for one day, the masses are fickle, as it were. You are easily broken up if you're just a mob, as it were, just for one day. But if you're a community, that's different to a mob, then you're powerful. And communities don't really exist at the moment because we're obsessed about individualism. So, I mean, yeah. So why do I bring happiness into it? Because like, if you really want to be motivated over a long period of time, you have to understand what really makes you happy. And what makes us happy is doing meaningful things. And again, I would love to quote Viktor Frankl, a top psychologist of our time, wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and he said that's the basic solution to finding happiness. And meaning sounds, in the public, it sounds like this funny thing that nobody can find out about, and that's actually really bad for us, that we think we cannot find meaning at all. And the last bit is kind of repeating this idea of individualism has, I would describe, as dissolved society. Like, we think of individualism as a solution to all our problems, and I'm not really against treating, respecting people's individual choice, but that can't be the number one thing. Okay, real happiness is in togetherness, I like to say, in community, in unity. And I don't want to go into that too much, but unity is so powerful in creating happiness. I was doing a street party the other day. I'm not going to go into too much, and people realized how much they needed each other. Just sitting down and talking to each other is so valuable, and so many people are asking for it. When I say street party, one of those Jubilee street parties. Um, so we need to find a way to become united, and united against evil, by the way, and I'll repeat that. The evil of selfish people who control us at the moment. And and the evil is not just outside us, it's inside us as well. We need to be the what's the phrase, the solution that we are looking for in society. There's some phrase that goes like that. Okay. There's another comment, and then I would like you, Wahid, to either comment on what I've said or what all I can't see it. All Hera, Here, I think. But the screen's a little bit far away from me. Anyway, I would argue that anyone protesting is already very, very miserable. Interesting. Interesting. And I don't disagree with that actually in some ways. I think society at the moment is pretty miserable. But anyway, before I respond to that anymore, just any thoughts, Wahid?
Yeah, the reason why people are miserable because their voices are not being heard. And when people's voices are not heard, that's potentially protesting can lead to potential violence.
Yes.
And that's why, should we protest or not? But if you want to protest, do it in a more civil way.
Yeah. You said a couple of go on, keep going. I've interrupted you, but I'm going to try to remember something that you said, something here important.
If people's voices are not being heard, and this has not been going on for years, it's been going on probably centuries, when people's voices are not being heard.
Yes.
Frustration leads to turmoil, turmoil leads to breakdown, breakdown leads to violence, and violence leads to individualism and separatism.
That's very interesting. A whole interesting domino effect. So the two things you said that I'm going to make sure I try to respond to. So one thing that both you kind of you about not being heard is similar, kind of echoes what all Hera is saying about. I feel like it's kind of subtly said in the comment by all Hera about being miserable. Okay. You feel, you are powerless, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and how do we overcome that? So we can either keep playing the blame game, and when you play the blame game, you actually feel more powerless and more miserable. And so what do? I am always giving, giving, giving. So if somebody's rude to me, I'm kind back. And then you start feeling powerful, even though maybe you could be killed, for example, straight away, for or whatever. But you feel you start making a difference really quickly, because other people start saying, you know what, if we stop blaming and start fixing ourselves, we start feeling the change. That's really important. And you start changing other people. Otherwise, it's always a downward spiral of hate and blame, and it's unfair. I think that's really dangerous. But there's something else you said, something about violence, and I want to talk about it right now before I forget, is that I'm really disappointed in the current protest by some Muslim groups, and I call them extremist Muslim groups, who have stopped certain movie being shown, and they've scared some cinema companies not showing a movie, and that's not how it's done. That is mob warfare. That's not the kind of, that doesn't convince people, that divides people more, and actually that encourages, from what I'm seeing, all the racists and the people who like division. They are doing more of it. They grab onto it and say, oh, look at those bad Muslims. And it's a few bad Muslims, because most Muslims like you and me, we don't protest about that. We're like, okay, show the movie, we just won't go to it. Do you know what I mean? If we
Yeah.
don't like the movie.
Yeah.
um
They're just not.
So, but thanks for the comments as well, all here. You saw my street party because on YouTube, because it wasn't put on YouTube by a nice friend called Simon, and all here. I'm sorry, I'm not that smart, but it sounds like one of like here. I agree, maybe. Oh, all here. That's you put in caps. That's I get it. I get it. You're just explaining what your thing is. I can see it clearly in all caps. I get it. So anyway, so that's one thing. There's